I am Olivia's History Archives, and welcome back to Chapter Three's review for AICE International History AS level. Today we are looking at 3.2. So, just as a little beginner to start us off, I'm going to start off with the background this time so it's a little less confusing than the last video. So, by 1939, it was clear that the League of Nations had failed at its one job to keep peace, but most people had already figured that out before World War II even started. So the question is why did it fail so badly? So the three subsections that we're going to be looking at is 3.2a, which is the failure of disarmament, 3.2b, the crisis in Manchuria and Abyssinia, and 3.2c, which is how the major powers slowly stopped caring about the League. So, one of the League's biggest goals was getting countries to reduce their weapons and armies so no arms race could ever cause another war. Every major European power agreed to this in the Treaty of Versailles, but none of them actually followed through on this except for Germany, who was forced to. And to try and fix this, the League set up the World Disarmament Conference in 1932 of February. Over 60 countries showed up, and there was real hope, but it fell apart immediately because of the Great Depression. And so basically, the Great Depression had hit hard after the Wall Street crash of 1929, and governments felt they needed to hold on to their armies in case of unrest in their countries. Then Japan invaded Manchuria in 1931, and the League told them to leave, and Japan ignored their commands, which made every other country believe that they could do the same. And then Germany came to power in 1933, scaring the rest of Europe into keeping their military strong. Hitler also showed up to the conference and made the argument that Germany had disarmed like it was told to, but nobody else had. So Germany was basically defenseless against every other nation. France refused to accept this at all, so Hitler walked out, pulling Germany out of the conference and the League entirely in 1933 of October. The conference collapsed and no real disarmament ever happened, and with Germany and Japan both building their militaries back up, everyone else felt they had to do the same. Okay, so this one's a little bit longer, so just stick around. So we're going to be talking about Manchuria first. In 1931, Japan invaded Manchuria in China. China asked the League for help, and the League told Japan to withdraw. However, once again, they did not listen. The League set up a commission led by Lord Lytton to investigate, but when they were looking into it, Japan just completed its takeover and renamed the territory to Manchukuo. When the Lytton report came out in 1932, it said Manchuria should be returned to China, and 42 countries voted yes. Japan voted no, refused to comply, and then left the League as well. The League did nothing, and Britain and France were in too deep into their Great Depression to impose sanctions, and neither of them were willing to go to war over it. This showed the world that powerful countries could be ignored in the League powerful countries could ignore the League and get away with it. So next, let's talk about Abyssinia. In 1935, Italy invaded Abyssinia, which was also a League member. Emperor, excuse me if I butcher this, Haile Selassie asked the League for help, and it was a clear case of aggression, and the League unanimously condemned it. But again, nothing meaningful occurred. They didn't really do anything to stop it. Britain and France didn't want to fall out with Mussolini, and because they saw Italy as an important ally against Germany. Mussolini had also threatened war against anyone who imposed serious sanctions, and frankly, neither country cared enough about like such a faraway African nation to go to war over it. So they imposed weak sanctions that didn't include oil, coal, or steel. So it basically did nothing because those were like the major things. And Britain and France officials secretly drew up the or I guess like wrote up the Hoare-Laval Pact, which would have handed Italy control over most of Abyssinia. When people found out about this, the both officials had to resign. Abyssinia fell anyways, besides all that was done for it, and Mussolini, annoyed the League had even tried to sanction him, pulled Italy out of the League and got closer and allied with Hitler. Okay, 3.2c. So for the League to work, it needed powerful countries behind it, and by 1930s, almost all of them had either left or really just stopped caring. Italy had never been fully committed at all, and Mussolini had ignored the League as far back as 1923, and he left when sanctions came. Germany also resented the League. Hitler saw it as a tool Britain and France used to keep Germany weak and left in 1933. Japan had been like an original supporter, but as the military took over the government, the League just got in the way of their expansionist plans. So they left after the Manchuria decision. The USSR was suspicious of the League from the start since Russia wasn't even invited to be a part of it. They joined in 1934 mainly because Hitler was becoming a threat, and they they were scared of it, so they wanted like bigger nations to help protect them. Um, and then Britain and France were the ones in the League that were dependent on the most, and they kept choosing their own interest over their commitments. They were scared of war, stretched. They were like suffering still economically from the depression, and as the Hoare-Laval Pact showed, they were willing to go behind the League's back when it suited them, so it was obvious that they were very biased. Okay, guys, that is it for 3.2. Next video will be 3.3, so tune in for that. Bye.